large black population and low-income families that after it all kind of like went away and people forgot about it, they just really never really cared because they're poor and I don't know. It's just really sad.
Yeah, no, it's worse. It's actually worse than
they're
sad.
just like
It's infuriating.
to talk like, you know how it is. It's just like there's just like black families there. Who cares about them? Let's just try to, maybe if we forget about this, they'll leave and they will never come back.
No, and if you're cynical at all, and many of us are, I mean, you sort of believe the immediate reaction to Katrina was that people were embarrassed and ashamed of exactly what you just said, but they didn't necessarily change their behavior. But
so one of the issues is affordable housing, and how do we create it? We can't do the
well, that's an issue everywhere, isn't it?
What?
Well, that's like so weird. I always thought that the Brad Pitt model was they were going to make affordable houses, not $300,000 houses. That doesn't make any sense.
No, he's an architectural aficionado. He's very
No, I know he's an architect, but like
so he invited all these, you know, name brand architects to submit the designs.
Trying to make like a real, you know, affordable.
But I don't know, but I never heard the word affordable come into it. I mean, these houses are stunning.
A whole social justice movement in architecture and urbanism. We probably have books about it. Well, because I care about it, and I'm bored of them. But how do you create small little houses? Aren't like the FEMA box. It's at least a step up. It's temporary housing for people, like till they get. And then you think of as a person who works for the city of Madison now, the land. We pay for everything because of the land, how we value land. So just think that that land suddenly that had a certain value is now like given away for nothing. I mean, that just undermines everything for everybody.
Yeah, I've got two. I mean, we go through the whole. I mean, we had the National, you know, Progressive Planners Network, contributed
Right.
people. All those people we knew. They came to our conference. This People's Plan that's actually reproduced here in the back was an outstanding document, which was approved by the City Council as part of the rebuilding plans, contrary to what everybody else did. So yeah, we were there. And then, you know, a lot of the problem, based on what you're saying and Lauren's saying, we went to Tokyo, went to Kobe, went to Tokyo. In Tokyo, some places in the city are 15 feet below sea level. So when you think of Tokyo, you don't think of New Orleans in the same way, well, it's below sea level, but a lot of Tokyo is below sea level. And there are, you know, these humongous gates that shut across where water flows. But in Tokyo, land is gold. So for they have what are called super levees. And the levees are not levees like we have in Louisiana to hold the river or the lake from flooding, but they're literally the size of football fields across that go levels and levels, and they're 50 feet high. I mean, and they're terraced. You actually think you're walking on parkland. You know, there are trees, there are benches, whatever, but you're on top of a super levee in Tokyo. And looking across, and there are pictures of the in the book. You're looking across at a huge steel gate that would shut off any water surge coming. But their land is valuable. So they make a public investment in protecting that land and protecting the houses that are on the land. And unfortunately, in the public, in terms of a governmental policy, is not valuing the land in New Orleans whatsoever. So families may value their property, and cultural and family connection to places like the lower Ninth Ward is huge. But in terms of a public policy valuation of why it's important in New Orleans and why you would actually make the public infrastructure investment to hold that resource dear, that's not happening.
So there's no land value based on topography. So your neighbor that had the kind of $75,000 house, it's higher up, so it's worth, you know, triple or quadruple that.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
also the Brad Pitt houses are specific square of land. They can't, isn't it? That he has,
They're all built on a lot.
Yeah, a lot, but they can't be built anywhere else. It just can't be built in that lot. I remember someone saying that.
Well, I don't know what you mean by the design. I guess you could build somewhere else if you have the ability to. I mean,
When they saying like the houses, they couldn't help build Just trying to remember when we were there.
That they had to build those houses in that area.
In that area,
right?
they couldn't build it around.
But that was something that you were saying was, you guys pushed for that.
Yeah, they'd wanted to, there's a more upper income part that's a little higher, closer to the river, some old houses that are more historic. It's a historic district called Holy Cross in the lower Ninth Ward. And we actually pushed the Brad Pitt, Make It Right people to have to build on the more devastated, lower income part of the lower Ninth Ward.
Because they didn't want to do it there first.
They didn't want to do it there. They wanted to do it in the other area.
They are.
Welcome.
They are, but you know, they're open for business. You want to buy a book, they're ready to sell you a book here at this co-op.
Well, I'm actually a volunteer. I just came in to check a schedule. So
Okay.
sorry to interrupt.
Well, you know, civilians are always welcome.
Yeah, we like volunteers.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the economic development drivers at the port, and is there any, how does Acorn or its, subsequent organizations,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
clear if it still exists, but what are you doing to help, how do you get those jobs back that are family supported wages?
Well, that's that's a serious project. Part of the problem of Acorn nationally and a number of other things going under in November of 2010 meant there isn't the same kind of capacity and resource to support some of that. So the Louisiana organization is still very feisty and has a good reputation, and the same leaders and same staff for the most part are still working there, but it doesn't have the same resources. And in terms of dealing with economic development, that's largely a locked door. So the arguments around the port are not widely made. Certainly this area of coffee, we're trying to see what we can do, working both sides of the streets as both people who sell coffee and people who drink coffee to get more coffee coming back into the port. But there doesn't seem to be a very robust plan to make the port the kind of driver that Joel argued it should be, and that we absolutely concurred that it could be.
Maybe Just Coffee could come out with a Port of New Orleans blend and start a campaign. Small little piece
I was
of it.
there this morning and I talked to them about exactly that.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would do something like that. But it does. But it would take them. You said it takes them like a while to figure out. Okay, how do I source it? What do I do differently? How do I? I don't even know how to source coffee, but getting it from there to here, see how that could be a big deal.
Well, they were more interested in what I was saying than feeling like they knew how to do it either. So, I mean, and unfortunately, and I haven't done all the research, but part of what happened in sort of the exploitation of the disaster is that, as near as we can tell, the New York, New Jersey Port Authority instituted a huge tax incentive to redirect that coffee production out of the New Orleans port after Katrina. The coffee buying co-op that Just Coffee was part of at the point of Katrina, lost a lot of coffee, and the insurance made it up, but that's still an inconvenience. But after that, the coffee now comes very, ridiculously, goes from Central America to Newark, and then it has to be trucked back.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me about what that green footprint is, or cost is, or whatever else. I mean, it makes, and that's all fair trade coffee. That just makes it more expensive and hurts the producers, hurts everybody. And actually, in our argument, when we took over this particular coffee house 6 months ago, I mean, that was a big point. We'd buy fair trade coffee that came into the port of New Orleans. It'd be fresher. It supported union, family supporting wages, and that's the way we'd roll. But that was a controversial decision for some, because we weren't, flying it in from Atlanta or Boston, Dean's Beans, or whatever, some of the big fair trade purveyors. It just turns out the economy and, governments are complicated, complicated things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor, on that.
The whip of hunger, the dull compulsion of economic necessity.
A dull compulsion of economic necessity. That's almost a good ending point for this.